So we're on, okay. Good morning, welcome to the October 12th meeting of the Santa Barbara County Planning Commission. Please join me for the flag salute. Okay, Mr. Villalobos, would you like to start us off with item 2 and 3, please?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Planning Commission hearings are televised live on County and Santa Barbara Television, CSB TV Channel 20 at 9 a.m. in the South Coast, Lompoc, San Ynez Valley, Santa Maria, and Orchid areas. Rebroadcasts of Planning Commission hearings are on Fridays at 5 p.m. on CSB TV Channel 20. Today's hearing will also be streamed live on CSB TV's website and will be available for download in a day or two. And now for the roll call, Commissioner Blau,
Here.
Commissioner Brooks, Commissioner Brown,
Here.
Commissioner Cooney,
Here.
and Chair Farini.
Here.
Thank you.
And Ms. Black, item 4 and 5.
Yes. Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the commission. With respect to the agenda status report, we have 2 consent items on your agenda and 2 regular items. We are ready to move forward with the 2 consent items and item number 1. Item number 2, we're recommending that you drop from your agenda as the applicant, not the appellant, but the applicant has withdrawn their land use permit that was subject to the appeal. So just recommend that you acknowledge that and drop the item from the agenda. Probably should read it into the record, so maybe we'll just do that when we get there, if that's okay. In terms of the projection report, I know it's only October, but it feels like December to me, because that's kind of where we're heading and planning for. So we will be meeting again on October 26th in Santa Barbara, and we have what looks to be a fairly short agenda that day, at least at the moment. November 2nd, you notice that there are no items on your agenda, and my recommendation is that we just go ahead and cancel that meeting. Just doesn't look as though we're going to need it. November 9th, we have one item on, and that'll be a Santa Maria hearing, and that is the Larner appeal, the Ballard Canyon appeal of the Larner Winery. Pardon?
I think you said 9th. I think you meant 14th.
No, I meant 9th.
Oh, 9th? I'm sorry. Oh, sorry,
Yep.
November, yeah.
That's okay,
Gotcha,
November
gotcha.
9th. Then we don't typically meet during Thanksgiving week, the Wednesday of Thanksgiving week, so that's not even shown on your projection report. We have a hearing scheduled for December 7th, and as you can see, there's one item on that day, as well as your holiday lunch on December 7th. And then December 14th is the last Planning Commission hearing of the year, and it's intended to be in Santa Maria, and we have 2 items on at the moment for that day. Then moving into January, I think we discussed this last time, but just as a reminder, we are not planning on having the Planning Commission meet the first Wednesday in January because the board won't be meeting until January 10th. And we know that there are going to be two new board members. We know who one of them is, but we don't know who the other one is, and they need to either reappoint or appoint new planning commissioners. So we'll go ahead and plan on meeting on January 11th, assuming that we have items that day. So that's, I think, all I have to report. And I would recommend that the commission go ahead and make a motion to cancel November 2nd, if that sounds good to you.
So moved.
Okay, all in favor?
Oh, we have to
roll
do
call.
roll
Oh,
call.
roll call?
Yeah.
All right.
Commissioner Blau,
Aye.
Commissioner Brooks, Commissioner Brown,
They're,
Aye.
okay.
Commissioner Cooney,
Aye.
and Chair Farini.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
Great.
Okay.
That's it.
All right, and now on to item 6 is public comment. Anybody from the public wishing to comment on items not on today's agenda, now would be the time.
There's no one here.
Okay,
Mr. Chair.
thank you. Okay. Then we'll move on to Planning Commissioner's informational reports. Nothing to report there. And we have the minutes of September 14th.
I'll move for approval.
Okay, no discussion?
Commissioner Blau,
Aye.
Commissioner Brooks,
Aye.
Commissioner Brown,
Aye.
Commissioner Cooney,
Aye.
and Chair Farini.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
And the minutes of September 19th.
Move for approval again.
So moved. No discussion?
Commissioner Blau,
Aye.
Commissioner Brooks,
Aye.
Commissioner Brown,
Aye.
Commissioner Cooney,
Aye.
and Chair Farini.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
And on to the director's report. Do we have a director's report today?
We do.
We do, all right.
Good morning.
Dr. Russell, welcome.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. Since the 19th, there have been 3 hearings with some interesting items at the board. On the 20th, we approved an EIR contract with Aspen Environmental for the ERA EIR project for the East Cat Canyon oil field, a rather large project that'll at some point be coming your way. We also did an approval of a contract for groundwater consulting services for the Las Flores Canyon Exxon facilities. That's just a typical groundwater monitoring services. Perhaps the most interesting thing, one of the most interesting things on that date was the after-action Refugio oil spill report. So that kind of puts it'll probably never be over, but that was a significant milestone in sort of finishing up the active first phase of that whole unfortunate incident. So that was accepted by the board. And we made some design. You may remember that we proposed some changes to the zoning ordinance in terms of design residential zones, specifically for low-income senior and special needs populations, and that was approved by the board, although there was some sentiment that we should have done more public outreach. So there was a sort of a lesson learned there. We did some, but because it was an approved program in the housing element, which was required by the state, we didn't do public outreach in the same way that we would have for a community plan or something like that. On the 4th, there was an acceptance of the Coastal Commission's certification of a local coastal plan amendment that amended our housing element basically in minor ways to achieve consistency with state law in such areas as farm worker housing and state density bonus. But of more interest, perhaps, was the board approved our submission of an application to Caltrans for the scenic highway designation on Highway 101 from the boundary of the city of Goleta all the way up to Highway 1, which is itself a scenic highway. So we were happy to see that. Yesterday, the big item, of course, the only item, D item, was PCEC, which your commission denied. And after a pretty good presentation by staff, I'd say, it became clear to the board that there were a lot of things on the table that had not been considered by the Planning Commission. There was an offer to put an easement over some breeding ponds. There was an offer to do some a study of the Yerba Santa, and so there was a lot of discussion of these new there possible conditions regarding SSRC participation in overseeing the project for safety reasons. There were a whole number of different issues that came up, and so we were directed to return on the 1st of November with a kind of a matrix that shows how these different options and factors and conditions would affect what the benefits would be, what the reduction in production would be, both in terms of percentage and number of wells. So we're working on that now. We'll probably have some different conditions and findings that will be available for the board to choose from, depending upon which way they go. And denial is still on the table. They made that very clear. So they wanted to see a little bit more in-depth analysis of the things that had been offered and suggested since the Planning Commission hearing. So we'll be going back on the 1st. Of course, that day is also the day when we take the winery ordinance update. So that'll be a big day for us. And then just a couple quick notes. On the 8th, we take the Gaviota plan, assuming that they are set. We're proposing that these hearings be set on the, coming up on the 18th next week. But if they are set as we expect, we'll have the Gaviota on the 8th going to the board, and short-term rentals, I believe, on December 6th going to the board. So those are some upcoming big projects that we're very pleased to see finally getting to the board. And I'm happy to answer any questions, and if there's any, if any staff members would like to add anything to what I just described, feel free.
I have a question, Mr. Chair.
Yes, Commissioner Cooney.
Thank you. Dr. Russell, back to PCEC. I watched a good part of the hearing yesterday and had the reaction that a considerably different project was being presented to the board than was to the Planning Commission. And I wondered if that was a strategy on the part of the applicant to see what the Planning Commission would do with less intensive environmental concerns. But regardless, I guess my question is procedurally, it would have been open to the board as one of the possibilities to return the matter to the Planning Commission for study of the additional concessions offered by the applicant. Would it not?
I believe that that was an option that was not discussed at the hearing, but remanding to the board, I believe, would have been an option if they wanted, to the Planning Commission would have been an option had they wanted to do that. I think that it didn't come up. I think they felt that they wanted to keep it, but they wanted a little bit more analysis of the new information.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Russell.
Thank you very much.
Okay. So now we'll go on to the consent agenda. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. For item C1, the following is a hearing on the request of David Adolphson, agent for Church of the Solar Logos owner, to consider case number 16TEX7, application filed on April 12, 2006 for 18-month time extension to March 15, 2008 for two conditional use permits, case numbers 12CUP 21 and 12CUP 23, and accept the previously adopted mitigated negative declaration 14 NGD 16 pursuant to the state guidelines for implementation of the California Environmental Quality Act. And for item C2, the following is a hearing on the request of Lori Tamura, Urban Planning Concepts, agent for Orchid Aqua Center, Inc., owner, to consider case number 16TEX6, application filed on April 12, 2016 for a one-year time extension to April 23, 2017 for a development plan, case number 00DVP 6. I don't think that's right. And to accept the previously adopted mitigated negative declaration 06 NGD 21 pursuant to the state guidelines for implementation of the California Environmental Quality Act.
Did you just read Sunburst or the ACA?
We read
Both.
both, so.
Oh, you're gonna
so
do
we-
both.
you can do C1 first, and then we'll go to
Well, you-
C2.
Could do both. It's consent.
Okay. I move staff's recommendation.
I'll second it.
Mr. Chair,
Yes,
So-
Mr. Zorovich.
staff would just like to interject. I think while the agenda's requested for the Sunburst a time extension of 18 months, they actually wanted a request of 5 years to that. And I spoke with Commissioner Brooks yesterday, and just to clarify that there was some confusion in the request. But the request for the applicant was to extend it for 5 years and not 18 months.
So shouldn't these be done separately?
Yes, so we
Yes.
can do C1.
I was just, Mr. Chair, I was just providing clarification to the
Okay,
Sunburst one.
great.
C1.
Okay, so, It's a 5-year extension. So I'll move that staff's recommendation for Sunburst for the 5-year extension.
And the second agrees.
Okay. So roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Blau,
Aye.
Commissioner Brooks,
Aye.
Commissioner Brown,
Aye.
Commissioner Cooney,
Aye.
and Chair Farini.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
Okay, so now we're on to C2.
I'll move staff recommendation on C2.
I'll second.
Okay, very good. And vote, please.
Commissioner Blau,
Aye.
Commissioner Brooks,
Aye.
Commissioner Brown,
Aye.
Commissioner Cooney,
Aye.
and Chair Farini.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
Okay, now, item 1 on the standard agenda.
Thank you. The following is a hearing on the request of Steve Welton, agent for Victor Schaaf, owner, to consider case number 15 LLA 3, application filed on October 23rd, 2015, and to determine the project is exempt from the provisions of CEQA pursuant to state CEQA guidelines, section 15305A.
Thanks. And Ms. Trotter-Cadena.
Chair Farini, members of the commission. The project before you is located approximately 3 miles north of the intersection of Highway 246, known as 2765 Sabata Canyon Road in the Lompoc area, 4th Supervisorial District. The property is comprised of 2 parcels. One is approximately 642.65 acres. The other one, the smaller one, is approximately 2 acres. The applicant is proposing to divide these parcels into proposed Lot 1, which would be 322.71 acres, and Lot 2, 321.94. The larger parcel, the 642-acre parcel, is currently under the Williamson Act. Upon recordation of the lot line adjustment, all parcels would remain under the Williamson Act, along with the additional 2 acres of this proposed site. Currently, crops are grown on proposed Lot 1 and proposed Lot 2. The lot line adjustment is being requested to allow additional agricultural production on proposed Lot 2. As proposed, the project is exempt from CEQA pursuant to Section 15305A, minor alterations in land use. The project is consistent with the comprehensive plan policies, the Land Use and Development Code, and Chapter 21. Staff recommends that you approve the project. Your commission's motion should include the following: make the required findings for approval of the project specified in Attachment A of this staff report, including CEQA findings. Determine the project is exempt from CEQA pursuant to CEQA guidelines, Section 15305A, included as Attachment C, and approve the project 15 LLA 3, subject to the conditions included as Attachment B. Staff would also like to let you know that the agent for this project is in the Santa Barbara hearing room. And that would conclude staff's presentation.
Okay, and I need to ask for planning commissioners ex parte or site visits. Anyone? No. Okay, so do we have any questions? No.
I have a question.
Commissioner Brooks.
Yes, thank you. I'd just like to ask staff, what is the procedure, because I was glad to hear that both parcels would be in Ag Preserve. Does the applicant have to reapply for that when in doing this, or was the original 2-acre parcel? Just as for procedural purposes, how does the applicant go about that?
Chair Farini, Commissioner Brooks, as part of the conditions of approval, the applicant will be applying for a replacement contract on one and a new contract on the other, because we are adding an additional 2 acres that was not under contract. The procedure, however, is identical as far as processing goes.
And not only do we have no speaker slips, we have no speakers. in the room, so.
And there are none here except Mr. Welton, if you'd like to say anything.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the Commission. Steve Welton from Suzanne Elledge's office. We're the agent for Mr. Victor Schaff, who unfortunately can't be here. He had an unexpected medical procedure. However, we have no comments. We've reviewed staff's recommendations and reports and concur with them. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Chair, I'll move for staff recommendations approval.
Okay.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. Mr. Villalobos?
Commissioner Blau,
Aye.
Commissioner Brooks,
Aye.
Commissioner Brown,
Aye.
Commissioner Cooney,
Aye.
and Chair Farini.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
Want to read forward into the record?
So we'll go to item 2 then.
The following is a hearing on the request of Mr. Gary Teixeira to consider the appeal case number 15 APL 13 of the director's decision to approve land use permit case number 14 LUP 410.
And I'll move we drop it from the agenda.
What? Go ahead.
I was just going to recommend just checking if there's any public comment first.
Do we have
No,
any
none
speaker
here.
slips down south? Okay, no. So, okay, so we need a second.
Commissioner Brooks. Thank you.
I'll second.
Okay.
Commissioner Blau,
Aye.
Commissioner Brooks,
Aye.
Commissioner Brown,
Aye.
and Commissioner Cooney,
Aye.
and Chair Farini.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
Well, we probably set a new record there. Meeting adjourned.